Guys, we're all familiar with the super polarizing topics in the gun community, AK-47 versus AR-15, Glock versus 1911. But I doubt that there's any one topic that is more polarizing and probably has people taking definitive sides more than, should I chamber around or not chamber around when I carry a pistol? We're going to discuss some of those options and the pros and cons. Those of you that follow me know that I'm a staunch supporter and a firm believer in personal choices. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I feel like I'd be a huge hypocrite if I sat here and told you that there was a certain way you should do anything, and then that includes carrying one in the chamber or not carrying one in the chamber whenever we conceal carry. And that goes for open carry for that matter. But I will give you some pros and cons of both to let you make up your own mind. But let's get right into that. I want to talk about the pros of carrying with one in the chamber first of all. Obviously, you've got a much faster reaction time. Typically speaking, whenever there's any kind of a close quarters attack or self-defense issue, you're dealing with about a 7-yard rate of recognizing that threat. And of course, it comes in from there. I mean, obviously, many of these attacks where you might need to draw your weapon are going to be up on you, like right on you. So reaction is going to be a huge positive of already having one in the chamber. Why is that? Because you're not having to draw, take the time of including an additional motor skill, reaching over, racking that firearm, and then taking that shot. You're just going to draw and take a shot. Now, obviously, you're going to want two hands on the firearm if possible. But look, if you're not able to, you can just pull off that one shot with that one hand because that support hand is not necessary. Which brings me to my second pro, using only one hand to draw the weapon. If you're having to only use one hand to draw that pistol and to encounter that threat, you have that secondary hand out there, that support hand, necessary if you need it. Whether that person is wielding a knife, whether they're right up on top of you and you need some space to be able to draw that pistol in order to get that shot off. If that support hand is fending somebody else off, how in the world are you going to rack that slide? And let's face it, guys, taking one step out of that entire process, again, when you have adrenaline dump and you have a threat, somebody that's closing in on you, it's nice to have that extra step that's eliminated at that point, because now you're just moving from point A to point B and you don't have an A point 2 or something like that you're trying to get to. This may not sound like a big deal, but you got one more round. One more round can make a difference. Let's face it, no one has ever run out there and said, yeah, I'm gonna take only what I need. You don't know what you need. So having one extra round can be a literal lifesaver sometimes. The last pro on carrying with one in the chamber, I gotta say, is you feel safer. I know that sounds kind of contradictory to what we're gonna get into with some of the unchambered issues might be, but I know that when I go into a particular area, if your radar's on, you already have one more thing that you're not worried about because you're already taking things in, but you also feel safer. You know that you don't have that extra step of chambering. It's a feeling knowing that you feel safer. So while safety might be an issue for some people with one in the chamber, having one in the chamber can be a positive on the safety side also, simply because your environment feels safer to you at that point. The cons of carrying with one in the chamber, honestly guys, it's almost the same thing what we just talked about. Some people don't feel safe. Some people feel like having that one in the chamber is just not something that they're comfortable with. Obviously, in more cases, it's your newer shooters or just unseasoned shooters, somebody that doesn't have the time to go out to the range. It's important that we understand why people choose to do things they do. That way we can disseminate the right kind of advice to them, which brings us to the pros on carrying unchambered. As weird as this sounds, I think there's only one pro. And obviously, guys, that is if it makes you feel safer. Now, you hear a lot of people out there who they kind of subscribe to that my way or the highway kind of thing. If you don't agree with their opinion or their way of doing things, then it's the highway for you because they don't feel like there's any place for you. I don't feel that way. I feel like the gun community needs to be a little bit more inclusive when people don't feel safe in doing certain things. Look, if carrying with one in the chamber, full magazine, but carrying with one in the chamber is not what you're comfortable doing, don't do it. If somebody is going to tell me that you carrying a firearm without one in the chamber is equivalent to you carrying a brick, clearly being able to rack that slide, charge that weapon, put one in the chamber, and put a round down range is a whole lot more effective than slinging a brick. Huge difference. Don't let anybody belittle you. Don't let anybody tell you anything about that. I say it all the time about the types of guns we carry, how we carry guns. If you have a gun next to your bed for self-defense, it all goes back to you. If you don't feel comfortable, then all bets are off. You've got to feel comfortable. Don't let somebody else bully you, belittle you, or talk down to you because you don't want to carry with one in the chamber. I can tell you this much. If I am in some kind of a setting and I don't have my handgun on me, which I don't know why I wouldn't, but let's say for some reason I don't have my concealed carry weapon on me. If you're there and you don't feel comfortable with one in the chamber and there's a threat there, I'm glad you're there. I don't care if you have one in the chamber or not. Now, I hope you're not the one being attacked, because obviously some of the pros that we talked about earlier with carrying one in the chamber now are not going to apply to you. But I would much rather you be there instead of you standing back going, y'all told me carrying a firearm without one in the chamber was useless. I should just leave it at home, so I left it at home. No, guys, carry it with you. Carry it with you, but there has to be a second step. In other words, that should not be your end point. If you don't want to carry one in the chamber, I get it. I'm okay with you doing that. But again, that should not be the end of it. You should be seeing that as, okay, if I'm not comfortable with carrying one in the chamber, I should be. I should absolutely be comfortable, and you should. You should get to a point. You should progress to that point where you absolutely feel comfortable carrying one in the chamber. What's that entail? Trigger time. Go out to the range. If you don't feel comfortable with trips to the range and doing dry fire drills are excellent ways to get familiar with that pistol. For one thing, learn your rules of gun safety, because those rules of gun safety are invaluable in terms of just drilling it into your head and knowing that if you follow these rules of gun safety, you can't have a negligent discharge. And that's what people are genuinely afraid of by carrying one with one in the chamber. But if you go out to the range and you're constantly executing your drills and you're training and keeping those rules of gun safety in your mind and you still don't feel safe, look, there's a lot of professionals out there, a lot of experts that you can seek out and get them to take you to the range and make you feel more comfortable. Maybe you're flagging yourself. Maybe there's some things that you're doing that still make you feel uncomfortable, but you can't put your finger on it and you can't tell what those things are. Seek somebody's help out, not on the internet, not on Facebook. I would not go into a Facebook group and say, guys, I carry without one in the chamber, can you help me? Because what's going to happen is you're going to get a barrage of people that are going to be talking down to you and talking to you like you don't know what you're doing, and completely ignoring the fact that you, as a human being with your own freedoms, simply don't feel comfortable and safe carrying with one in the chamber. What we should be doing is stop trying to belittle people and actually find out why that person doesn't feel safe and address that. Help them. Try to help them. The things that I noticed when I was putting my bullet points down for the pros and the cons is that the exact same reason existed on both sides. One of the pros of carrying with one in the chamber is feeling safer, and one of the pros of carrying without one in the chamber is feeling safer. It's just for different reasons. We need to make it to the point where this person over here, this one can be corrected. In other words, you can correct the guy who doesn't feel safe carrying one in the chamber. You can work with that over time, over experience, and a little bit of trigger time and range time. Again, dry firing drills are really helpful. You can correct that and put that guy into this box to where now his reason for carrying with one in the chamber is that he feels safer.